Hey guys, Jack here. Today, I'm gonna talk about the fourth Ultraman to be part of the new generation heroes. And that is the first Ultraman to ever use fusion as a main source of transformation. That being Ultraman Orb. Now, Ultraman Orb is the first series to set around the 25 episode limit for Ultraman, which would be followed by its fellow Ultra series after this. Now this also started the trend of Ultraman Chronicles. Basically, they're clip shows for more information to fill out the rest of the year. Now, the first of this, after Ultraman Orb, is Ultraman Zero, the Chronicle, which will be followed by Ultraman Orb, the Chronicle, and so on and so forth. Hang on, I got some on my shirt. Whew. Crumbs. But, in any case, the main plot is that a man named Guy Kurenai is known as the Stardust Wanderer, traveling around the galaxy and Earth, defending it from evil. Now, Guy had original powers, but those were lost when he fell in love with an Earth woman around, a long time ago, around a fictional country in Europe, named, I think, Natasha. But in any case, this allowed Orb lost his original powers, so he had to rely on the fusion cards. Now, Guy's main enemy, who later becomes his rival and ally, again, but we'll get into that a little later, is Juggler. Now, Juggler has a... Hang on, I should probably bring that up for clarification's sake. Here we go. Go ahead and open that. I want to get that image up. To unleash the Magna Monsters. Now, Magna Monsters are pretty much... Should I bring them up? Nah. I won't. I'll focus on our transformation and forms for today. But back to it. Now, every time Orb defeats one of these Magna Monsters, he can take its core and turn it into an Ultra Fusion card. When he has 2 fusion cards, he's allowed to perform a fusion up. Now, I won't go over Guy's character because he and Orb are once again the same being. Similar to Ultra 7, which was the first Ultra to, instead of inherit to fuse with a human, would have a human disguise. So, let's first look at the Orb Ring. Very simple design. Now, this is Guy's main transformation item throughout the series. And let me just get to his profile here. To transform, Guy will hold out the Orb Ring like so, and light will appear. He'll appear in a dimensional space with a black colored tight suit on his body. First, he'll say, now, these transformations are pretty much identical. Except for the rises. He'll first call out the name of the Ultraman, then scan the fusion card into the Orb Ring. Hang on. I got this. I don't want to interrupt. Sorry about that, guys. Now, where were we? Ah, yes, the transformation. So, like I mentioned before, Orb will scan the fusion card, then a manifestation of the Ultra's body will appear next to him. The first Ultra will appear on the left side, and the second Ultra will appear on the right side. and the orb ring will say the Ultra's name. Now, some of these are very complicated, but Orb will say a pre-catchphrase. But he always says son, because son is another pronunciation for Mr. or Sir in Japanese. For his first transformation, he'll simply raise the orb ring up, which he always does, and he'll say, "Let me borrow your power of light!" And then he'll press the trigger, then the two sides of the orb rings will separate. Well, not the ring part of the orb ring, but the two parts that are next to it will flip open, and the orb ring will announce, "Fusion up!" And then it'll say, "Ultraman Orb," and then it forms. For his next form, it's a bit more complicated. Let me see if I can't... Oh, and also, for the fusion, or the rise sequences will sort of be a combination of the Ultras he's fusing with. Hang on, I got a GIF here, let me see. Okay, for his second form, he will cross his arms, thrust them outwards, pull his right hand back while holding his right hand in front of him, then thrust the orb ring up, and the same thing will occur. Now, his pre-transformation case for this form is, "Help me bring the heat!" For his third form, and let me get down here, just trying to get past this, okay. Just waiting for it here. He will hold his arms out, bring the orb ring close to his face while he pulls his right arm downwards, then thrust the orb ring up. Now the next one. Now Orb's next transformation is I can't really do this because it requires a lot of space and I'm afraid I may break something. But he'll usually swing his arms around, then thrust the orb ring up. Oh, I forgot to mention his third form's transformation catch. He'll say, "Give me something with an edge!" Now, for Orb, it's very complicated. Now, when Guy first used his fourth form's power, he was full of rage. So it was mostly angry grunting. For his second form, he was still angry, but we were able to get something better. His transformation call was an angry, "Let me borrow the power of darkness and light!" For his third and most standard transformation for his fourth form, the transformation cry is, "Please let me borrow the power of light and darkness!" And for his, sixth form, that's a bit complicated. Again, I don't want to go over this, because again, my screen might freeze at any minute. And I might just be wasting my time here. So, for that, for his next form, his pre-transformation cry is, "Let me borrow the power to electrify my enemies!" Now, this form actually appeared in a stage show first, and it has an alternate cry. It's called, "Let me borrow the possibility of the future!" For his final transformation form that involves a fusion, with two cards, he says, "Let me borrow the power of father and son!" Now, for his final form, he doesn't really have a pre-transformation cry. But for his final form, his final form, I should mention, when Ultras go into fusion forms like this, I like to categorize their forms. The Orb's first three forms, and sequential Ultras that will follow, are his standard forms. His fourth form is what I like to call super form. the form he gets for an alternate transformation item, I call that a mega form. And when he gets his form exclusive for his form in, and this is a standard since Ultraman Ginga, in the movie, I refer to those as final forms. Any forms that come after that are extra forms. But Orb will cry out after saying the names, "Let me borrow the power of your three lights, Orb Trinity!" And we'll get into that. Now first is Specium Superion. Now, each of Orb's, after Orb's transformation, Orb has a pre-battle catchphrase. His first form is Specium, like I mentioned, Specium Superion. He says, "I am Orb. I am the light that will... I light the darkness and strike out evil." Now, each of his forms is actually part of an Ultra's attack or ability. For this, he uses the power of the original Ultraman and Ultraman Tiga. Now, there's a specific reason why each card goes with a specific power. One, you could try with a plot convenience, but thankfully here on the Ultra Wiki, there's actually a describing. Now, Orb just doesn't have his in-series form. There are actually in-game forms that happen when Orb first premiered. This is an arcade game in Japan called Ultraman Fusion Fight. However, usually Fusion Fight contains a lot of different forms, so for time's sakes, I'm going to go over the forms that appeared in Suit. And by in Suit, I mean in live action. Now, this is Orb's most balanced form. It has a good ability of front attack and energy attacks, and the form's names come from the two ray attacks of the Ultras he's fusing with. The first half comes from Ultraman's Specium Ray. The second half comes from Tiga's Zampillion Ray. Now, Orb's main finisher is the Superion Ray. So, first off, Orb will raise his right arm upwards, his left arm upwards, then pull his right arm outwards. Similar to how Tiga will usually thrust his arm outwards for his Zampillion Ray, but then he will combine them into a plus style position, similar to the original Ultraman's Ray. Next, we'll just scroll down here. Next is Orb Burn Might. This combines the power of Ultraman Toro and Ultraman Mebius. Now his pre-battle catchphrase is, "I'm burning in crimson red." I forgot to show you Specium Superion's body. Oops. That's my bad, guys. Please forgive me. Okay, sorry. Stupid image. It's weird. Now, here's Specium Superion Ray. Now, in series, or at least in the sub, Orb can only obtain this fusion up form for 3 minutes at a time. And next, once again, we'll go with Burn Might. As you can see, Orb is mostly color rep, so this is his power form. I forgot to mention, I also call forms with a certain ability up by depending on what they are. Specium Superion, Zampillion was Orb's balanced form. This is his power form. I usually prefer different forms depending on their color. Unless the Ultra is blue, but then again, I can usually make that up. Now, Burn Might, like I mentioned before, combines the power of Ultraman Mebius and Ultraman Taro. Now, in this form, according to the wiki, and I'm right on this, Orb will trade off his power for his speed, for strength, and fire powers. Now, its name is actually a combination of two attacks. However, the burn part of the name comes from Ultraman Mebius' attack, the Burning Mebium Dynamite. And the second half comes from another dynamite attack from Toro, the Ultra Dynamite, specifically the Might part. Now, Orb has two special techniques. First, has three special techniques, two being distant and one being a physical move. First is the Strewn Burst. Now, Orb will ring for the get to reload. Orb will cross his hands out like so and gather fire energy near his color timer, which, similar to the Orb ring, is shaped like a circle. He'll then put his hands together around it, then thrust it forward. Next is the Strewn Ray, or the Strewn Kosen like I've mentioned in past videos. Now the Strewn Ray, okay, hang on, ready to reload again. First, Orb will put his hand up like he's doing with Ultraman, like Toro's Ray. He'll then cross his arms together and bring them around like Ultraman Mebius, and then he'll put it in a plus style ray, in a similar manner to the Strewn. Now these positions are similar to Toro's Ray, the Strewn Ray, and Mebius's beam attack, the Mebium Shoot. Now his special attack is Strewn Dynamite. Basically, Orb will cover himself in fire and pull a kamikaze attack. And similar to how sorry guys. Okay, let's continue. Similar to how no, I'm in the middle of recording. Anywho, similar to the Burning Mebium Dynamite and the Ultra Dynamite. Sorry guys, Mom wanted to get something. Trust me, whether I like this video will freeze. Will charge his enemy, and similar to those, he'll reform after exploding, or just be there after exploding. Now this puts a big strain on his energy, because afterwards, his color timer will automatically start blinking red. His next attack is the Hurricane Slash. This combines the power of Hurricane Slash, as you can see here. Now this combines the power of Ultraman Zero and Ultraman Jack. Now in this form, Orb gives up power for speed, but he makes up for it compensate in the sluggers that are located on his head, and the Orb Slugger Lance. Ooh, hang on, let me find it real quick. Here we go! And here is said Lance. Now, ironically, this would be redesigned and recolored for another Ultra series that I've gone over before in some update videos, Ultraman Z or Ultraman Z. But in any case, this name comes from Ultraman Zero's Millennium Slash and Ultraman Jack's Ultra Hurricane. Now the first attack is the Orb Slugger Shot. Basically, Orb launches multiple energy sluggers at his opponent. Next is the Orb Slugger, like I mentioned before, the Orb Slugger Lance. Now the Lance has a lever on its shaft, and depending on how many times Orb pulls it, a different attack is used. The first, by pulling the lever once, he can use the Orb Slugger Shot. By using which is an energy blast attack. By pulling the lever twice, he can use the Big Bang Thrust. Basically, a larger energy attack that can be used either from long or close distances. Next is the Trying Slash, his finisher move. By pulling the lever 3 times, Orb rapidly slashes his opponent. Now, he doesn't really have a... Now, there was a plan for an attack called the Ultra Slash Shot, but it went unused. Next is Thunder Breath Star. Now, Thunder Breath Star is Orb's super form, Hurricane Slash being his speed form. And as you can see, now this one has greater, because of the muscle suit, has greater strength than Burn might. Now, this combines the power of Ultraman Softy and Ultraman Belial, two Ultras I hope to go near in the future. But in any case, at first, because Ultraman Belial is an Ultraman of Darkness, when Orb first used this form, it made him go crazy, attacking everything in sight, not using his preferred techniques like punching or kicking or all that stuff. Kind of reminds me of how Ultraman first started. Basically, it was just a lot of punching and kicking with no real choreography to it. Now, by accepting his past, which I mentioned before when we went over his character, Orb was able to better control this. Now, this name comes from body marks on Zofties, a breaster, and star marks, making the breath star part. And this comes from an attack by Belial named the Belial Gilo Thunder. So, Thunder Breath Star. Now, Orb's special attack in this is the Zectanium Ray. So, Orb will form an energy ring, will cross his hands outwards and form an energy ring of black and white lightning. He'll then bring them together and form a plus style ray. Now, we could go over his final form, but the wiki's telling me to go over his extra forms. Now, these appeared in his special that I mentioned before with Victory, known as Ultra Fight Orb. Now, this form originally started out in Ultraman Fusion Fight, but because of Orb's final form in his movie, he gained the ability to access this. This is Lightning Attacker, the fusion form of Ultraman X and Ultraman Ginga, both who I have covered before. Now, like I mentioned before, this originally started out as a game form. Now, as you can see here, as you saw from the image, Orb is more armored in this case, and has the ability to use X's power as well as lightning. His finisher is Attacker Ginga X. He takes a similar position similar to the Attacker X that Ultraman X uses, but instead of fire, he charges himself with electricity. Next is the Almum Slash. Now, this was the last new form that Orb would receive. Now, this combines the power of Ultraman 0 and Ultra 7. I should mention this. Ultraman 0 is actually 7's son, but we'll go over that in a later video. And just like Lightning Attacker, Helium Slugger started out as a game form. Now, Orb has 3 Sluggers. One he can remove from his head, which is reminiscent of Ultra 7's Eye Slugger. And 2 that form energy, and 2, instead of being removed, become Energy Sluggers, which is more standard with Ultras today, who have Sluggers molded onto their head. Now, it's a good production standpoint, so it bothers me, but I kind of see the reason. It saves money. Now, his first ray is he has 3 ray attacks. First is the Wide Slayer Shot. Similar to Ultra 7's Wide Shot and Zero's Wide Zero Shot, it's an L-style ray. Next is the Triple Elenium Ray, which, again, similar to Ultra 7's Elenium Ray, and Ultraman 0 Irenium Slash. I finally got it! Basically, Orb will launch energy from that, well, small crystal in his forehead. Next is the Alien Slugger Ammonium Slugger Specium, which is Orb's most powerful attack. Basically, Orb will gather up a bunch of energy in his left arm. He'll then hold it outwards, then put in the same position as the wide slugger shot. Now, this attack has an ultra name called the ES Specium, and I think that's easier to remember in all things considered. Now, he has a combination attack with 7 and 0, which was seen in Ultra Fight Orb. This is known as the triple wide shot. Basically, they combine all their wide shot attacks for one powerful blast. Now, I'm skipping through the game forms because since they never really appeared, it doesn't really make much sense to go over them. Boy, there are a lot. Here we go. Now we'll get into Orb's Mega Form, Orb Origin. Now, as you can see, it sort of encompasses all of Orb's previous forms. Let's try and fight the glare. I'm sorry if you guys can't see his face. The body is the best I can do. Now, like I mentioned before, this is Orb's original form, which he lost. And it was only ever seen in silhouette form during his fusion up sequences. Now, similar to Daichi and Ultraman X or Exceed X, Orb uses the Orb Caliber to transform. To do this, he first scans the Orb Origin card into the Orb Ring, which will then manifest into the Orb Caliber. Guy will spin the wheel where 4 symbols will come up for 4 basic elements, that being fire, water, earth, and wind. Now, after pulling the trigger and thrusting it upwards, Guy will transform into Orb Origin, with his Orb symbol being in the middle of the Orb Caliber. Now, this is the Orb Caliber in its human-sized mode, and this is in its giant-sized mode. Generally do the dark ring. Now, Orb can use an energy slash attack, but it has a lot of different varieties. Now, the wheel that's used to select for the attacks are the Orb Caliber wheel. Now, Orb's special attack is the Orb Supreme Caliber, by scanning the Orb Caliber into the Orb Ring and thrusting it upwards, creating a ring of light that surrounds the Orb Caliber, well, the blade portion anyway. Orb will then thrust it or swing it forward for a giant energy blast. Now, I forgot to mention. Now, Orb will then spin the Caliber wheel after doing this, then press the trigger, then spin again. When using specific attacks, and what I find cool about this is that the Orb Caliber will shine when using it. Will shine when Orb put the part with the Caliber wheel forward, and then Guy will appear in front while Orb will appear in the back. I find that neat. So anyway, for an element attack, Guy turns the Caliber wheel till it reaches a certain element. Then he pulls the trigger. Then he'll lay the Caliber upside down with a blade pointing to the right, and then spin the Caliber again, and then spin the wheel again. When he selects the flame symbol, that fire symbol, it allows him to use the Orb Flame Caliber. This allows him to create a ring of fire. For those of you who've heard the song Ring of Fire, good for you. I think that was sung by Johnny Cash. But let's not get into country legends right now. And then, according to the wiki, he then thrusts his sword towards his enemy, which traps them in, an orb of blazing fire. And that can cause an explosion. By spinning the Caliber wheel to the water symbol, Orb can use the Orb Water Caliber. This allows him to trap him and his enemy into a water-like area, and then traps his opponent in a geyser and slashes them. Next is the Orb Brown Caliber. Now for this, Guy again needs to select the rock symbol on the Orb Caliber. Now I should probably mention where these symbols are. Now, they don't really form a circle-like object, more like a diamond. The flame symbol being at the top point, while the water symbol is next to that. The rock symbol is at the bottom. After this, Guy will push the Orb Caliber into the ground, creating yellow energy that manipulates the earth. Next is the Orb Wind Caliber. Once again, Guy needs to select the wind symbol, which is on the left side of that diamond shape I mentioned earlier, and it allows him to create a powerful tornado by swinging his sword in a circular motion. Now, Guy has a secondary form called Orb Origin the First. Now, this form is exclusive to Ultraman Orb, the Orb Origin Saga, which basically details Guy's adventures after he first got the Orb power. Now, as you can see, Orb is red, similar to most Ultras. Now, Orb's special attack, similar to his origin form, which I forgot to go over, is the Iridium Ray. And this was Guy's first beam finisher. Now, it's pretty much a plus style hand symbol, but when he achieves the full power of Orb Origin, he will move his hands out like so, creating energy in sort of a wavery circle with a red light at the top, a blue light to the right, a yellow light at the bottom, and a green light to the left. Now, these are all. Next, he'll bring his hands down in a plus position and fire an energy beam through said circle. Next, we'll get into Orb's final form, this being Orb Trinity. Now, you see that little spike thing on him? That is actually his transformation item / weapon for this form, the Orb Slasher, which is a redesign and retool of Ultraman X's X-Lugger. Now, similar to the X-Lugger, depending on how many times Guy slides his finger down, will allow Guy to do a certain attack. Now, this allows Guy to use the powers of both Ginga, Victory, and X together. And when the X caliber is not in use, that's where the spikes on his left shoulder come in. Now his most powerful attack is, no wait, I think I may have passed it. Oh dear. Now, his most powerful attack is the Trinity Corin, or the Trinity Light Ring. Basically, Guy slides his finger down the orb slasher 3 times, then turns it around and presses the button, similar to how Daichi and X, before they perform the X-Lugger Slash. Form the X-Seed Slash. But instead of being a slash attack, Guy creates a giant energy buzzsaw made of light, and then he launches it as his opponent. Now, people may not consider this his finisher, but I consider it his finisher. So roll with me. And the wiki also also mentions how these combinations work. And since my computer is still not frozen, thank you God, I will go over them real quick. Now for Specium Superion, I mentioned our Ultraman Taiga and the original Ultraman and Ultraman Tiga. Yes, got it right there. Yes, did the first time. Excuse me. Now, these were because these were the both main leads for their respective series. Ultraman being the first Ultra in general and the first of the Showa era, while Tiga was the first of the Heisei era. And also because, in real life, the original Ultraman's 50th anniversary and Tiga's 20th anniversary were both coming up, so it just made sense. Now, Ultraman Toro and Mebius are a bit different. For Burn Might's sake, it's because Toro was Mebius's teacher who taught him how to fight. They're also both members of the Ultra Brothers, which makes sense, because Mebius is, if I only know this correctly, aside from Zero, was the first Ultra Brother to be part of the first Ultra to be part of the Ultra Brothers and not be from the Showa era. I think. And they also faced two enemies that were difficult to beat without the help of their Ultra Brother comrades. For Toro, it was Grand King in the Ultraman story. For Ultraman Mebius, it was the past Ultra Brothers combined their energy to upgrade Mebius into Mebius Infinity so he could face Eukilosaurus. Yes, I know, hilarious. Now for Hurricane Slash, for Jag and Zero, they're both related in some manner to Ultra 7. Now, Ultraman Jag is 7's brother in arms, while Zero is his son, and they both use bracelets to access their powers. They also both use staff-like weapons. You also both use staff-like weapons called Lancers. Spark Lancers. For Ultraman Jag, it's the Ultra Spark Lancer. For Zero, it's the Zero Spark Lancer. Next is Softy and Burial. Now, while Thunder Breaster obviously represents good and evil, it's also in a contrast of personality. You see, Zofty is Ultraman's superior, the original, and as such he has more experience, so he knows how to be self-controlled, compared to Burial, whose wild personality led him out of control. They also are used for their strength, specifically in differences. Burial being the strongest evil Ultra, while Zofty has the strongest beam techniques. Next, for Lightning Attacker, I won't go over those. Well, maybe I should real quick. Well, you can look at this different ways, but the most important thing is that they both lost their original bodies. Sorry about that, guys. Let's wrap this up real quick. I'm not sure how much longer I can go. Plus, this went out for 40. Plus, this is about to hit 40. Anyway, both Ultras lost their bodies before their series officially started. In Ultraman time, anyway. Gingal lost his body to Dark Lugiel, while X lost his body. Okay, I shouldn't say to. I should have said while fighting. For Ginga, fighting Dougligo. For X, fighting Griza, the final opponent for X's series. Now, Ultraman 7 and 0, that's for Aluminum Slugger. That's pretty obvious. They're father and son. So, that's pretty much it for my Ultraman Orb review. Sorry this took so long. I don't know what's going on with me today, but I can assure you I'm not sick. But still, what did you guys think? Did you hear an Ultra you want to know more about? Want me to talk about a certain Ultra show in general? Let me know in the comments down below. Hit that like button and please subscribe to my channel. I don't update often, but when I do, hit that bell icon, you'll get all the latest updates. Well, this is Jack Killer saying, well, that's all for now. This is Jack Killer saying, Orb Trinity! And see ya!